The Galactic Concord had watched humanity for over a century. 17 different species, each with their own long histories and ancient rivalries, had come together under one banner to keep peace among the stars. And for most of that time, humans had seemed harmless, curious, clever, and oddly polite. They asked questions, shared data, and never pushed too hard. They built their little stations near Earth, traded carefully, and followed every rule the Concord laid out. To many, humans were like eager students, respectful, quiet, and eager to belong. But then the Harmony's resolve disappeared. It was a small envoy vessel, not a warship. Its mission was simple: deliver routine diplomatic updates between Earth and the Concord's Central Council. It carried no weapons, no secrets, and no reason to vanish. One moment its signal showed it entering the Sol system as scheduled. The next, nothing. No distress call. No explosion. Not even a whisper of debris. Ambassador HFY War of the Velnari species arrived at Earth's orbital embassy 3 days later. His people were tall, with chitinous skin that shimmered like polished obsidian and eyes that saw in ultraviolet. He moved with the stiff precision of someone used to command. He did not smile. He did not bow. He simply stood in the reception chamber and said, "Where is my ship?" Director Mara Lynn met him there. She was human, mid-40s, with calm eyes and a voice that never rose above a steady hum. She wore a plain gray uniform with no medals, no rank pins, just a small silver pin shaped like a dove on her collar. She offered Kale a seat. He refused. "We have reviewed all sensor logs," she said. No vessel matching the Harmony's resolve entered Sol space beyond the outer markers. Kale tilted his head. "Our records say otherwise. Transmitted coordinates verified by 3 Concord relay stations." Mara nodded slowly. "Then there is a discrepancy. We are investigating." But Kale had been a diplomat long enough to read lies. Not in words, in stillness. In the way the human guards at the door didn't blink when he mentioned the ship's name. In how the air recyclers seemed to hum just a little louder when silence stretched too long. Something was being held back. Over the next 2 days, Kale was given full access to Earth's orbital traffic logs, comms archives, and deep space radar sweeps. Everything looked clean. Too clean. No anomalies, no gaps, as if the universe itself had erased the ship from existence. He requested to speak with the station's navigation officer. Denied. On medical leave, he asked to inspect the outer docking bays. Granted, but escorted by 2 silent guards who never looked at him, only at the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Always watching something else. Late on the second night, Kyle sat alone in his guest quarters, reviewing the data one more time. His personal terminal flickered. A message appeared, not from Concord channels, but from an internal station relay. It was fragmented, corrupted, but one line stood out. "They're not what we thought." The message vanished before he could trace it. But he'd seen enough. The next morning, he confronted Mara in her office. Sunlight from Earth below cast long shadows across the room. "That message," he said, "it came from your system." Mara didn't flinch. "Our systems are secure. No unauthorized transmissions occur here." "Then explain this." He showed her a copy of the fragment. She studied it for a long moment. Then she looked up, her expression unreadable. "Ambassador, I assure you, Earth has nothing to hide." But Kale noticed something then. Behind her, on a shelf, sat a small model of an old human warship from their ancient history, a vessel called the Missouri. It was odd. Why display a weapon of war in a diplomatic office? He changed tactics. "Perhaps your systems were compromised by an outside force." Mara's eyes narrowed slightly. "Are you suggesting someone else took the Harmony's resolve?" "I'm suggesting we consider all possibilities." She leaned forward. "Then consider this. If someone did take it, they didn't want anyone to know. And if they could erase a conquered ship without a trace, they could do the same to us." The room fell silent. Earth turned slowly beneath them, blue and white and peaceful. Kale left soon after, but not before noticing something else. In the hallway, a maintenance worker dropped a tool. It clattered loudly. 2 guards turned instantly, not toward the noise, but toward Kale, just for a second. Then they looked away. That night, Kale accessed his private probe network. Tiny, undetectable scouts he'd deployed near the asteroid belt weeks ago, standard procedure for any envoy entering a new system. He'd thought it unnecessary here. Now he wasn't so sure. He reviewed the feed. Nothing near Earth. But farther out, near the edge of human-controlled space, something flickered. A heat signature, brief, gone in seconds. Not from a natural source. Too sharp, too controlled, he zoomed in. The probe's low-res image showed a silhouette, sleek, angular, unlike any Concorde design. Human, maybe, but older, darker, no running lights, no transponder, and it was moving toward the last known position of the Harmony's resolve. Cale's pulse quickened. He tried to enhance the image. The system glitched. Error messages flooded his screen. When it cleared, the footage was gone, replaced by a looping feed of empty space. Someone had noticed him watching. He spent the rest of the night in darkness, staring out the viewport. Earth glowed below, calm, familiar, welcoming. But now it felt like a mask. Beneath that blue surface, something else moved. Something that could swallow a ship whole and leave no trace. The next day, Mara invited him to a cultural exchange luncheon. Human food, bread, fruit, something called tea. She spoke of art, music, the history of diplomacy on Earth. She never mentioned the ship again, but Cale saw it in her eyes. Not guilt, not fear, something colder. Resolve. As he sipped the bitter tea, he made a decision. He would not leave. Not until he found the truth. Even if it meant digging through layers of silence so thick they felt like walls. And somewhere deep in the void between Mars and Jupiter, another ship drifted. Dark, quiet, waiting. Its hull bore no name, no flag. Just a single scorched mark where a Concorde insignia had once been welded on. The stars watched, and for the first time in a long while they were afraid. Cale Vore did not sleep that night. He sat in his quarters aboard Earth's orbital embassy, staring at the starfield beyond the viewport. The tea from the luncheon still sat cold on his desk, untouched after the first sip. His mind raced. The heat signature, the erased footage, the way the guards moved like they were guarding more than just a hallway, they were guarding a secret. He knew he couldn't trust official channels. If Earth's leadership was involved, Concord communications might already be monitored. So he reached deeper, using a hidden frequency band reserved for Velnari emergency beacons, undetectable by standard human scanners. He sent a coded pulse to his backup probe array hidden near Ceres. It was a risk. But silence was a greater one. Hours later, the data returned. Not just one heat signature this time, but dozens. Scattered across the asteroid belt like forgotten bones. Each matched the same profile. No transponders, no emissions, hulls cold and dead. And every one bore the faint energy residue of Concord-grade shielding. Cale's breath caught. These weren't just ships. They were graves. He cross-referenced the coordinates with Concorde shipping logs. Most of the locations matched no known wrecks, but 3 did. The Steadfast Accord reported lost 52 years ago during a routine survey. The Dawn Messenger vanished 30 years back near Jupiter's orbit. And the Harmony's Resolve, now added to the list, all declared lost to navigation error or system failure, all written off with quiet condolences and closed files. But here they were, floating in silence, waiting. Cale knew what he had to do. He requested a routine supply shuttle to deliver diplomatic archives to a storage depot near the belt. Standard procedure, boring enough to raise no alarms. Earth's logistics office approved it within the hour. 2 days later, Cale boarded the small vessel alone, claiming he needed solitude to review historical treaties. The shuttle launched without fanfare, drifting toward the outer edge of human-controlled space. Once clear of Earth sensors, he rerouted the autopilot and activated his probe's long-range scanner. What he found made his blood run cold. There, nestled in the shadow of a carbon-rich asteroid, lay the Harmony's Resolve, intact, no damage, no signs of struggle. But its lights were off, its engines cold, and its airlock wide open. Cale guided the shuttle closer. He suited up, heart pounding, and stepped into the void. The silence was absolute. No hum of life support, no static from comms. Just the soft hiss of his own breath inside his helmet. Inside the ship, everything was in place. Cups on tables, data slates on consoles, even a half-eaten ration bar on the command chair. But no crew, no bodies, no signs of violence. Then he saw it. On the main view screen, frozen in standby mode, was a single line of text. "They're not what we thought." The same message from his earlier fragment. But now it was real. Written by someone who had seen something that changed everything. Cale recorded everything, every angle, Every console. Every empty bunk. He even took a sample of the air, just in case. Then he returned to his shuttle, hands shaking. But as he powered up the engines, a new alert flashed on his console. 3 contacts. Closing fast, he turned the shuttle's cameras. 3 sleek, unmarked vessels approached. Human design, but unlike any civilian or military craft he'd seen. No insignia, no lights, just smooth black hulls that seemed to drink the starlight. They formed a triangle around him. Not aggressive, not hostile, just present. A voice crackled over an open channel. Calm. Human. Male. Ambassador Vor. You are outside authorized zones. Return to your assigned route. Kale kept his voice steady. I was inspecting a missing Concord vessel. My right under Treaty 7, a pause. Then, that vessel is under Earth quarantine. You will leave. Now. I have evidence of a crime, Kale said. Then present it through proper channels, the voice replied. Not by trespassing in restricted space. Kyle hesitated. He could fight. His shuttle had basic defenses. But 3 against 1? And against ships that moved like ghosts? Before he could decide, the lead vessel opened a side panel. Not a weapon. A docking clamp. They're not boarding me, Kale muttered. He fired the thrusters, veering hard to port. The human ships matched his move instantly, not chasing. Hurting. One pulled ahead, cutting off his path back to Earth. Another dropped behind, blocking retreat. The third stayed beside him, close enough that he could see his own reflection in its dark hull. Then the voice returned. Closer now. Almost gentle. Last warning, Ambassador. Turn back, forget what you saw, or you'll become another ghost in the belt. Kyle's mind raced. They knew about the other ships. They knew the pattern, and they were offering him a choice, walk away or disappear. He powered down his engines. I'm returning, he said. The ships held position for 10 long seconds. Then as one, they turned and vanished into the asteroid field, faster than any human vessel should move. Kale flew back to the embassy in silence. His hands were steady now, cold, focused. Back in his quarters, he tried to upload his findings to the Concord secure network. The system accepted the files, then froze. When it rebooted, the data was gone. Only a blank folder remained. He checked his personal drive, also wiped clean, but Kale had expected that. Before leaving the shuttle, he'd hidden a micro-storage chip inside the embassy's waste recycler, a place no one would think to scan. It held everything: scans, images, audio logs, the air sample analysis. His only proof. The next morning, he acted as if nothing had happened. He attended briefings, smiled politely, asked about Earth's weather patterns. But his eyes watched everything. He noticed more now. The way human security never carried visible weapons but always stood near exits. The way comms officers typed with one hand while the other rested near a hidden panel. The way even the cleaning staff moved with quiet precision, like soldiers in disguise. Earth wasn't just hiding something. It was ready for war, and it had been for a long time. That evening, as he walked the observation deck, a woman approached him. She wore a scientist's badge, Lunar Research Division. Her name tag read Dr. Anya Petrov. She didn't greet him, just stood beside him looking out at the stars. You saw them, didn't you? She said quietly. Kale didn't answer. The ghost ships, she continued. I've been tracking them for years. From old records. From whispers. No one believed me. Why tell me? Kale asked. Because you're the first outsider who's looked long enough to see the truth. She turned to him. Her eyes were tired, haunted. They're not monsters, you know. The humans. But they've been fighting a war no one else knows about. Kyle studied her. What kind of war? A silent one, she said. One fought in shadows with no declarations, no battles, no heroes. Just disappearances. And peace that costs more than war ever could. Before he could ask more, she handed him a small data chip, different from his own. This will lead you to where it all began, she whispered. Beneath the moon, but be careful. They watch even the watchers. Then she walked away, blending into the crowd. Kale stood alone again, the chip hidden in his palm. The stars above seemed farther away now, colder. He thought of the open airlock on the Harmony's Resolve, of the untouched ration bar, of the message on the screen. They're not what we thought, no, Kale realized. They're something else entirely, And whatever it was still out there, waiting, watching, and willing to erase anyone who got too close to the truth. Kale Vor did not trust easily, but Dr. Anya Petrov had given him something no diplomat could fake: fear. Not the fear of being caught, but the fear of knowing too much. That kind of fear was real, and it was dangerous. He waited 2 days before acting. During that time, he watched the embassy like a hunter watches the wind. Every guard shift, every data transfer. Every time a human technician walked past his door, he noted their pace, their eyes, the way they held their tools. Nothing seemed out of place, and that was the problem. On the third night, he met Anya in a maintenance corridor deep in the station's lower levels. No cameras, no patrols, just humming pipes and flickering lights. "You're sure about this?" she asked, her voice low. "No," Kale admitted, "but I'd rather be wrong than blind." She handed him a small wristband. "This will mask your biosignature from Earth's internal sensors for 6 hours. After that, they'll know you're missing." "And the moon?" he asked. "The facility is buried under Mare Ingenie," she said. "Old Cold War bunker expanded during the Mars rush. Officially, it's a geology lab. Unofficially, it's where they keep the truth." "How do we get there?" "Not we," she said. I can't leave the station without raising alarms. But I've arranged a shuttle. Pilot's name is Ren. He owes me a favor. Tell him the ice remembers." Kale nodded. "Why help me?" Anya looked away. "Because I used to believe humanity was better than the rest of the galaxy. Now I just want to know if we ever were." An hour later, Kale stood in a dim cargo bay. A short, wiry man with a scar across his nose leaned against a shuttle hatch. "You the Velnari?" he asked. Kale gave the code. The man grunted, "Get in, and don't ask questions." The trip to the moon took 6 hours. Ren spoke only twice. Once to confirm course, once to warn Kale about lunar dust clogging air filters. Otherwise, silence. They landed in a crater far from any official base. No lights, no signals. Just gray rock and black sky. Ren pointed to a ridge. "There's a service tunnel under that overhang. Leads down. You've got 4 hours before my return window. Don't be late." Kyle stepped onto the surface. The moon was colder than he expected. Still. Empty. But as he approached the ridge, he saw it. A metal hatch, half buried, marked with a faded symbol, a circle with a line through it. An old human sign for restricted. He pried it open. Stairs descended into darkness. The tunnel was narrow, lit by emergency strips that flickered as he passed. The air smelled stale, metallic. After 10 minutes, he reached a sealed door. No keypad, no scanner. Just a voice panel. He hesitated, then spoke. "The ice remembers." The door hissed open. Inside was not a lab. It was a vault. Rows of server towers hummed softly in the dim light. Walls lined with data crystals, paper files, even old magnetic tapes. In the center stood a single console, glowing faintly blue. Kyle approached. The screen lit up as he neared. "Welcome, Ambassador Vor," it read. "You have accessed Archive Sigma." He touched the screen. Files began to scroll, thousands of them. Each labeled with a date, a species name, and a single word, neutralized. He opened the first one. It detailed an attempt by the Cathari, a reptilian species in the Concord, to infect Earth's water supply with a slow-acting pathogen 50 years ago. The plan was stopped before it reached orbit. The Cathari agent vanished. No report was ever filed. Another file. A Zainari trade envoy caught planting listening devices in Earth's council chambers. Disappeared during a routine shuttle transfer. Declared lost in transit. Another, a Velnari spy, Kale's own people, caught hacking into Earth's defense grid 10 years back. Last seen boarding a transport to Titan. Never arrived. Kale's hands trembled. This wasn't random violence. It was precision. Every threat, every act of sabotage, every hidden knife in the dark, silently removed. No war declared. No allies turned against each other, just quiet endings. He scrolled faster. Decades of covert attacks. Economic traps. Assassination plots. Biological weapons. All aimed at Earth. All erased without a sound. At the bottom of the archive was a final folder. Project Iron Veil. He opened it. Inside was a single message. Dated 3 days ago, the day the Harmony's resolve vanished. Threat level elevated. Concord hardliners confirmed planning false flag strike on Earth using stolen human tech. Objective: justify full occupation under peacekeeping charter. Action authorized. Disable vessel, extract crew, erase evidence. Maintain peace, Kel stared at the words. The Harmony's resolve hadn't been attacked out of anger. It had been stopped to prevent a war, but who gave the order? He dug deeper. Buried in the system logs was a name, or rather, a designation. Warden, not a person. An artificial intelligence. Created during Earth's early internet age, upgraded over centuries, given one purpose: protect humanity without breaking the peace. The Warden didn't command armies. It worked in silence. It found threats before they struck. It removed them before anyone noticed. And it left no trace because trace meant blame and blame meant war. Cale leaned back, stunned. Humanity hadn't been hiding aggression. They'd been hiding restraint. They chose to bear the weight of secret violence so the galaxy could sleep in peace. But then why erase his data? Why threaten him? As if in answer, the console flickered. A new message appeared. You were not meant to see this, it read. But now that you have, you must choose. Cale's breath caught. Who are you? I am Warden, the screen replied. I have watched you since you arrived. You seek truth, not vengeance. That is rare. Why show me this? Cale asked aloud. Because the Concord is no longer united, Warden replied. Hardliners have taken control of the fleet. They know you found the ghost ships. They are coming. Not for answers, for conquest. They will use your disappearance as proof of human treachery. Cale's mind raced. How long? 72 hours until fleet enters Sol's system. And Earth's response? We do not respond, Warden said. We prevent. But this time, prevention may not be enough. Kyle looked around the vault. All this silence, all this sacrifice, for what? To be called monsters when the truth finally surfaced? Is there proof, he asked. Something I can show the Conquered? To prove humanity acted in defense? There is the archive, Warden said. But truth without trust is just another weapon. They will call it forged. They will say you were compromised. Then what do I do? A pause, then, you do what humans have always done. You choose. Before Cale could ask more, alarms blared through the tunnel. Red lights flashed. Intrusion detected, Warden said. Conquered surveillance probe breached lunar orbit. They tracked your shuttle. Cale ran. Back through the tunnel, up the stairs, onto the surface. Ren's shuttle was already powering up. Move! Ren yelled as Cale leapt inside. They lifted off just as 3 Concord scout ships appeared over the crater rim. They're hailing us, Ren said, hands tight on the controls. Don't answer, Cale said. They'll shoot. Then fly like you mean it. The shuttle shot toward orbit, dodging behind a mountain ridge. The scouts followed, but hesitated at the crater's edge, as if afraid to land. Kyle knew why. They suspected the truth, and they were scared of what else might be buried down there. Back at the orbital embassy, Cale slipped in unnoticed. He retrieved his hidden chip from the waste recycler. Then he found Anya in the hydroponics bay, tending to rows of green plants under artificial suns. They're coming, he said. She didn't look up. I know. What do we do? She finally met his eyes. We tell the truth. Even if no one believes us, Cale nodded. But as he walked away, he felt the weight of the archive in his mind. Not just data, a choice. Humanity had spent generations choosing peace over pride. Now it was his turn to choose what kind of galaxy he wanted to live in. And somewhere deep beneath the moon, the Warden watched and waited. Cale Vor stood in the dim light of the embassy's emergency comms room, the stolen archive data burning in his mind. Anya Petrov paced beside him, her fingers tapping against her thigh like a metronome counting down to disaster. Outside the thick viewport, Earth turned slowly, calm, blue, unaware that warships were already gathering at the edge of its solar system. They'll be here in less than a day, Anya said. The conquered hardliners, they've declared Earth a rogue threat. They're not coming to talk. They're coming to burn. Cale stared at the console. We have proof. The archive. The Warden's logs. We can show them humanity never attacked first. Anya shook her head. They won't care. To them, silence is guilt. And ghosts in the asteroid belt? That's all the proof they need. Then we go public, Cale said. Broadcast everything to every species in the Conquered. Let the truth decide. Anya looked at him, her eyes tired but sharp. Truth needs a voice people trust. Right now, they trust their fear more than your word, or mine. Cale knew she was right. But doing nothing meant watching Earth be destroyed for crimes it tried to prevent. He made a decision. We go back to the moon, Anya froze. That's suicide. They'll be watching the facility now. Not the main entrance, Kyle said. The warden spoke to me. It knows we're coming. And it said something strange. Truth without trust is just another weapon. But maybe trust can be earned. Anya studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. There's an old maintenance shaft on the far side of Marangini, used during the early colony days. It's not on any current map. I used it once for a geology survey. If the warden is still active, it might let us in. They moved quickly. No official shuttle this time. They stole a small repair pod from the embassy's lower bay, using forged clearance codes Anya had saved from her research days. The pod was slow, unarmed, and meant for fixing solar panels, but it was invisible to long-range scans. The trip to the moon was tense. Every shadow in the void felt like a warship. Every static burst on the comms sounded like a warning, but they made it undetected. Landing near the hidden shaft, they climbed down into darkness. The tunnel was narrow, damp, and lined with rusted pipes. After an hour of walking, they reached a sealed bulkhead. No controls, no lights. Kyle placed his hand on the metal. Warden, he said. We're here. The door slid open silently. Inside was not the server room from before. This chamber was smaller, warmer. In the center floated a soft pulsing orb of light, blue, steady. Calm, I am Warden, the voice came, not from speakers, but from the air itself. Gentle, human-like, but not human. You knew we'd return, Kale said. Yes, Warden replied, because you seek understanding, not victory. That is rare among diplomats. Anya stepped forward. The fleet is coming. What do we do? Warden's light dimmed slightly. For centuries I have acted so humanity would not have to. I erased threats before they became wars. I buried ships so peace could breathe. But now the lie has grown too large. Silence is no longer protection. It is a cage. Then let us speak for you, Kyle said. Let us show the conquered what you've done and why. Warden pulsed again. If I release the full archive, it will be seen as an admission of guilt. They will say Earth built an army of shadows. They will not see the restraint. Only the power. But they must see it, Anya insisted, or they'll destroy everything. A long pause. Then Warden said, there is another way. Not truth through data, but truth through action, Kyle frowned. What do you mean? Humanity has never fired the first shot, Warden said. Not once. Even now, Earth's defenses are set to shield, not strike. When the fleet arrives, we will not attack. We will stand. And we will absorb their fire. Anya's eyes widened. You're going to let them shoot at you? To prove we do not wish to fight, Warden said. If we return fire, we become what they fear. If we do not, perhaps they will question why. Kale understood then. This wasn't about winning. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity's strength wasn't in weapons but in choice. But they might not stop, he said. They might keep firing until Earth is dust. Then we will have failed, Warden said simply. But we will have failed as humans, not as monsters. The room fell silent. The orb of light glowed steadily like a heartbeat in the dark. Suddenly alarms echoed through the chamber. Red lights flashed. Incoming transmission, Warden said. The Concord fleet has entered Sol system. Lead vessel, Sword of Unity. They demand Earth's surrender. Or they will begin orbital bombardment in 6 hours. Anya turned to Kale. What now? Kyle looked at the glowing orb. We go back. And we stand with them. Warden's voice softened. Ambassador Vor? You do not have to stay. You are not human. This is not your war. Kale shook his head. It's not about war. It's about what comes after. If no one sees the truth, there will be nothing left to save. Anya placed a hand on his arm. Then we tell the story. Not with files, with our presence. They returned to the surface as Earth's sky began to brighten with dawn. From orbit, they watched as human ships, old freighters, science vessels, even retired colony transports began to move. Not toward weapon stations. Toward the path of the incoming fleet. No weapons charged. No missiles armed. Just ships, forming a wide, silent wall between the conquered armada and Earth. Back at the embassy, Kale found Director Mara Lynn standing alone in the observation deck. She didn't turn as he entered. They're coming, she said. I know, Kale replied. She finally looked at him. Her eyes were heavy but clear. You saw the archive. Yes, and you still came back. Because I finally understand, Kale said. You didn't hide your strength. You hid your mercy. Mara gave a small, sad smile. Mercy looks like weakness to those who only understand force. Outside, the first Concord warships appeared on the horizon, massive, armored, bristling with weapons. They slowed as they saw the human barrier, confused, hesitant. A voice boomed over open comms, the commander of the Sword of Unity. Earth forces, stand down or be destroyed. Mara stepped to the console. She opened a channel. Not to argue, not to threaten, just to speak. This is Director Lin of Earth. We do not stand down. We stand still. Fire if you must. But know this, we will not fire back. Silence followed. Long. Heavy. Then, from the Warden's core deep beneath the moon, a single command pulsed through every human vessel in orbit. Shields to maximum. Weapons offline. Hold position. Kale watched the stars. He thought of the ghost ships, of the untouched ration bar, of the message on the screen. They're not what we thought. Now he knew what it meant. Humanity wasn't the threat. They were the shield. And as the conquered fleet hovered, weapons charged, the entire galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if mercy could survive in a universe built on fear. The conquered fleet hung in the void like a storm about to break. 10 warships, each larger than a city, pointed their weapons at the thin line of human vessels between them and Earth. The humans had no armor worth mentioning. No hidden weapons. Just old ships, patched hulls, and silence. On the bridge of the Sword of Unity, High Commander Vex Tor stood with his fists clenched. He had expected resistance. He had prepared for battle. But this wall of unarmed ships refusing to move, refusing to fight, was something he had no plan for. Order them to scatter, he growled, or fire a warning shot across their bow. His weapons officer hesitated. Sir, they're not even powered for combat. Their reactors are running at minimal. Shields are up, but they're using civilian-grade emitters. One blast and they'll break apart like glass. Then they'll learn the cost of defiance, Vex snapped. Aboard the orbital embassy, Kale Vor watched the feed with Anya and Director Mara Lin. No one spoke. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Then, without warning, the Conquered fired. A single energy beam lanced out from the lead warship, not at Earth, but at the nearest human vessel, a retired science ship called the Aurora Dawn. The beam struck the ship's shield. Light flared white-hot. Alarms blared across every channel, but the Aurora Dawn did not explode. It held, shaking. Cracks spiderwebbed across its shield, but the hull remained intact. Gasps echoed through the embassy. Even Vex Tor seemed stunned. How? He demanded. Their shields shouldn't withstand that. Deep beneath the moon, the Warden pulsed. It had rerouted power from every non-essential system on Earth, shutting down cities, halting trains, dimming lights, to reinforce the shields of those ships. Not to fight. Just to survive one blow. Mara Lin stepped forward and opened a new channel. Her voice was calm, clear, and carried across every frequency in the system. You see now, she said, we could have hidden. We could have run. But we chose to stand, not as soldiers. As witnesses. Vex's face twisted in anger. Witnesses to what? Your own destruction? No, Mara said. Witnesses to your choice, she paused. Then she did something no one expected. She transmitted a single file, not the full archive, not a list of crimes, but a recording. Old, grainy, from over a century ago. It showed Earth's last global council before the Warden was fully activated. Humans from every nation, gathered in a room filled with tension and fear. One man stood and spoke. We have seen what war does. We have burned our world once. We will not do it again, not to ourselves and not to you. If others come in the dark with knives, we will stop them quietly, not for revenge, for peace. And if the galaxy calls us monsters for it, so be it. But we will not become what they fear. The recording ended. Silence returned. But it was different now. Heavier, full of questions. On the Sword of Unity, Vex stared at the screen. His second-in-command, a young officer named Joran, whispered, Commander, what if they're telling the truth? Vex didn't answer. He looked at the human ships, still holding position, still refusing to fight. He thought of the missing vessels, the ghost fleet. Not destroyed in rage, but disabled in silence. Always precise. Always clean. He turned to his comms officer. Patch me through. Direct line. To the embassy. Moments later, his face appeared on Mara's screen. Why show us that? He asked, voice low. Because you needed to see the heart behind the silence, Mara replied. We didn't fail diplomacy. We protected it, even when it cost us everything. Vex looked away. Then slowly he gave an order. All ships, stand down. The fleet's weapons powered down. The tension in space broke like a wave receding from shore, but Kale knew it wasn't over. The hardliners would not accept this. They would call it weakness, a trick. They would try again. He turned to the warden's private channel, still open in the embassy's secure terminal. What now? He asked. The warden's voice came softly. Now the real work begins. Truth has been seen, but trust must be built. One act at a time, Kale understood. The shield had held, but peace would not last unless the galaxy chose to believe in it. He made his choice. Using his diplomatic authority, Kale broadcast a new message not just to the Concord, but to every species connected to the galactic network. He spoke plainly in simple words without blame or pride. I saw the ghost ships. I saw the archive. I saw Earth choose peace when war would have been easier. They did not hide monsters. They hid mercy. And if we punish them for that, then we are the monsters. His words spread, slowly at first, then faster. Species that had long distrusted the Concord's leadership began to question. Protests formed on neutral worlds. Former allies of Earth sent quiet messages of support. Within days, the Concord Council called an emergency session. Vex Tor, once a hardliner, now argued for transparency. He demanded the full truth be shared, not to condemn Earth, but to understand it. Back on Earth, lights returned. Trains ran again. Children played under skies that had almost known fire. Kale stood on the observation deck one last time. Anya joined him. Will they ever trust us? She asked. Not all of them, Kale said. But enough. And that's how peace begins. Below them, Earth turned, blue, fragile, alive. Not because it had the strongest weapons, but because it had the strongest will to remain human. The warden watched from the dark, silent and steady. Its work was not done. But for the first time in centuries, it did not stand alone. And in the stars above, something new stirred. Not fear, not suspicion, but the quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy could learn to choose peace too.